Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Belcher, and today we're going to be doing lesson one in our brain science series. And this year, for our social emotional learning, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on brain science. So you might be asking yourself, why? Why are we talking about brain science during Tiger Days? And here is one of your very own Yorktown High School students to tell you a little bit more about why.
So, some of you may know me. I'm Abby Fouts. I'm a senior here at Yorktown, and I'm just here to introduce the next counseling course we're going to be working on this year in our Tiger Day modules. And a note before I get started on that. I said it. Student voices are going to be implemented this year because the counselors recognize that it can be really hard to pay attention to like the long videos without having student voices. So if anyone's interested in sharing experiences or just their knowledge on any of the topics we might do counseling or Tiger Days on, or doing an introduction video that's simple like this, then you can Canvas message your counselor or visit in the counseling office and ask about it. And now to dive right in, along with the student voices we're implementing, the counselors recognize that it can be difficult to share emotions and personal information in the classroom setting, like a homeroom where you don't really know everyone that well, and that's how I was in my homeroom. And since this kind of just makes Tiger Days really awkward sometimes, we've decided to switch from emotions to brain science. So that'll be really good for us. And I really love brain science because it's so much easier to talk about, especially in a classroom setting. And it's really, really helpful to understanding yourself and others. So my biggest thing about this is that everyone's brain works differently. And brain science knowledge has really helped me to be really understanding of myself mainly, but also others, like a lot. And it's helped me recognize that differences I may have with other people are just almost always attributed to brain science and brain chemistry differences in the development of our brains. And it's been super helpful. So, like, emotional reactions may be different between people, or just like the ups and downs you have in everyday life. Those are different between people, and it's just because of our brains. And those may be different daily for you, and it's just because your brain is developing. And things like decision making, communicatory differences, learning abilities, emotions, memory, hunger, sleep, even breathing, those are all controlled by your brain, and those are all affected by the development of your brain. So if you respond or communicate different than the person sitting next to you, that's normal. And I think it's really great to understand that, and that your brain is still developing every day, and that yes, we are all different, and yes, it does take some time to recognize that. But the counselor sent me the following statement: the overall goal and hope of the implementation of brain science lessons is to increase teens' knowledge, awareness, and skills, which will lead to healthier, happier, and wiser learners. And my final thought about this is, please be patient with the video and the video I'm talking through right now, because everybody who is involved in this is just trying to help you all and help us all at YHS. And please be patient with your brains, because they're also still developing and they're just trying to help you as well. And be patient with each other. We all have different brains. Have a great day, people, and goodbye.
All right, so thank you so much for Abby for helping explain that a little bit more about why we're using brain science this year. Hopefully, after this lesson today, you will be able to do a couple things. You will be able to hopefully explain the four main areas of the brain and explain their function. And these four areas of the brain are the brainstem, the cerebellum, the limbic system, and the cortex. So we are going to start off with a little fun video playing Simon Says. And so I have a good little helper here today. And so here we go. Okay, so we are going to play Simon Says. So, good news, high school students, instead of you awkwardly getting up in the homeroom and playing, you are going to watch my daughter Emerson play Simon Says. Okay, watch closely, high school students. There might be a quiz later. All right, you ready to get started? Okay. All right, Simon Says, march in place. Hop on one foot. Simon didn't say. Simon Says, take 2 deep breaths. Okay, Simon Says, tell me, would you rather go back in time or visit the future?
With the future.
Visit the future. Okay. Simon says, draw a picture of how you think someone is feeling when they get a present. A sad face? Are you trying to be silly? How would someone feel if they got a present? Happy. Okay, would you be happy if you got a present? Would you be happy if you got a present? Yeah, okay. All right, Simon says blink. Blink. Simon says blink. Simon says, tell me how you feel about your best friend.
Happy.
Happy? Do you love your best friend? Yeah. Simon says, touch your finger to your nose. Simon says, touch your finger to your nose. Good job. Okay, do you know, Emerson, do you know what parts of the brain you used?
All of them.
All the parts of the brain. I think you know that because we've already done this video a couple times. But anyway, yes, you use all the parts of your brain, and we are going to talk a little bit more about the parts of the brain and come back to this video in a little bit and talk about which parts of the brain you used during which Simon Says movement. Okay? All right, Emerson, say bye. Say bye to everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, now that you've watched the Simon Says video, we are going to learn a little about the four main parts of the brain. Some of you, this may be sort of a refresher for, but some of you might not know this. So there are four main parts of the brain, and that is the brainstem, the cerebellum, the limbic system, and the cerebral cortex. When we're talking about the cerebrum, which is over to the right in this picture, the top right, that is the upper part of the brain, sometimes called the cortex region. This area is responsible for higher level thinking. So that's like critical thinking, problem solving, logic and reasoning, and cause and effect of our actions. Next up is the limbic system. And that sits on the top of the brainstem and is buried in the center of the brain. It is often called the emotional brain. So limbic system is the emotional brain. It is the source of our emotions and motivations, especially those linked to survival, such as fear and anger, as well as our responses to rewards and punishment. In future lessons, we will talk a lot more about this part of the brain. Sometimes the limbic system makes us react without thinking or using the rest of our brain. Next up is the cerebellum, and that is at the back base of the brain. This is also called the small brain or the little brain. The cerebellum is an extremely important part of the brain, which is responsible for things like balance, posture, motor control, language, attention, and mental imagery. And then last up, the brainstem, that connects our brain to the spinal cord. That is sometimes called the reptilian brain. It controls many basic functions such as heart rate, breathing, eating, and sleeping, the main functions that keep us alive. The brain develops from back to front, brainstem to cortex, so that means teen brains are actually not fully developed yet. They are still being developed. They're under construction. Research actually says that a person's brain may not be fully developed until 25 to 30 years of age. All right, let's think back to our Simon Says game. Teachers, in a minute, you're going to divide the room in half. We are going to have a little competition. Students, do not move seats. Teachers, you are going to read off one of the Simon Says tasks from up on your screen. Students are going to try to guess which part of the brain was being used during this task. For example, I'll give you one of the answers. For example, when Simon says blink twice, this would be an example of the brainstem. Blinking is an automatic response where we don't have to tell our brains or bodies to do that task. Teachers, in a minute, you're going to pause the video and allow maybe 5 to 10 minutes to play the guessing game to try to guess which part of the brain Emerson was using during the Simon Says game. Students, I have given you a little bit of help by listing the 4 parts of the brain and their functions up on your screen. So go ahead and start to play the game. Which side of the room will win? Teachers, you can pause the video now, play the game real quick, and then we'll start the video up again. Okay, how did you guys do? You ready to see the answers? All right, here are the answers. I won't read through all of them, but you can see on there, for example, when Simon says to march in place, that is using the cerebellum. Again, the cerebellum is responsible for balance, posture, motor control, and things like that. So I won't read through all the answers, but hopefully you guys had fun playing that game. All right, we are going to learn a little bit more about the brain. We are going to watch this video describing what's called the hand model of the brain, which is just kind of a good way to visualize the different parts of the brain.
Now, you probably know the name Dan Siegel. He's one of the giants in the field of interpersonal neurobiology, and Dan came up with a lovely hand model of the human brain. So let's kind of go through the hand model of the brain. And this can be useful for you to understand, but at times it might be useful for you to actually share this with your client. The wrist, the forearm coming up to here, is like your spinal cord. And right here at the end of the wrist is like the base of your skull. And here at the bottom of your palm, this is like the reptile brain, the life support system of the brain. So, you know, if the rest of your brain is wiped out through, say, for example, a stroke or a car accident, this life support part of your brain, the reptile brain, can still keep your body alive, can still keep all your organs functioning and your breath and your heart and so forth. And this is where a lot of autonomic nervous system operates and stems from this reptile brain. Now, above the reptile brain is the mammalian brain, often called the limbic brain or the emotional brain. So reptiles, they've got the fight or flight response, or they've got the freeze, shut down, flop and drop response, but they don't really have anything that is even remotely close to the complex emotional states that we see in mammals. And the limbic brain has many different parts to it, but two in particular that we'll be looking at in this course are the amygdala and the hippocampus. Now, don't worry about memorizing those terms for now. We will revisit them later. But this kind of is the middle brain, the limbic brain, the mammalian brain, basically responsible for emotions. Now, on top of the limbic mammalian emotional brain, you've got the cerebral cortex, the thinking cap of the brain. The cerebral cortex is much thicker in mammals, but especially so in primates, and particularly so in human beings, more so than any other primate. And this cerebral cortex, the thinking part of the brain responsible for consciousness and cognition. And right at the front of the cerebral cortex, you have the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's right up here at the front of your forehead, above your eyes. And particularly important to us is the medial prefrontal cortex, this bit in the middle, right at the front, this bit up here. This plays a very important role in mindfulness and awareness. So let's just go through it again. You've got your spinal cord, you've got your reptile brain. Underneath your cerebral cortex, you've got your mammalian brain with the amygdala, the hippocampus, responsible for emotions. And then you've got your cerebral cortex, your thinking cap of the brain on top, and the medial prefrontal cortex right here in the center of the front, right there.
All right, so hopefully that gave you just a different way to sort of visualize the different parts of the brain. Your brain is divided into two halves or hemispheres. Within each half, particular regions control certain functions. You may have heard people talk about being right or left brain dominant. We're going to learn more about that today. If you've heard people talk about being more left brain dominant, they are better at logic, sequencing, linear thinking, mathematics, facts, and thinking in words. Typically, those who are more right brain dominant are more artistic, they have better rhythm, they pick up on nonverbal cues, more creative, they use their imagination a little bit better, and are more in tune with feelings. Take a second to try to guess which side works more efficiently for you. Teachers, in a minute, you're going to pause the video. Students are going to take a quick quiz to see if they are right-brained or left-brained. Please open your MacBooks and go to your Tiger Day class. There will be a link to the quiz in the counselor lessons under your Tiger Day class. I will be playing a video that goes along with these questions, but you do actually have to get into the quiz and answer the questions to get your results. I'm going to play the video now. Teachers, please pause the video if your students are not finished with the quiz by the time the video is done. So please, students, please make sure you're going to Tiger Days. Under counselor lessons, there's a quiz for right or left brain. I'm going to play the video. Okay, teachers, if your students are not finished with the quiz, please pause the video now, have the students finish the quiz, and then you can start the video again. All right, now that everyone is finished, how did it go? How many of you are right brain dominant? Raise your hand. How many of you are left brain? Raise your hand. How many of you were split down the middle 50-50? If I was in your classroom, I would be raising my hand. Mrs. Belcher got 50-50. All right, were you right about your prediction? During the 1960s, thanks to research of psychobiologist and Nobel Prize winner Roger W. Sperry, it became very popular to take tests to see if you were right or left-brained. It is actually a myth, though. You can't be just right or just left-brained. Actually, probably unless you have some sort of brain damage. But for most of us, we use both sides of our brain. At one time, many people thought that they really had a dominant side that worked harder, or even only that side of the brain worked. However, we know now this isn't true. The two hemispheres are tied together by bundles of nerve fibers, creating an information highway. Although the two sides function differently, they work together and complement each other. You don't use only one side of your brain at a time. Hopefully you all enjoyed learning a little bit more about the brain. I know you have taken a lot of information in today about the brain during this lesson. We will be using this information to set the foundation for future lessons as well. When we all have a better understanding of how the brain works, we can begin to learn more about ourselves. We can better understand our own reactions to certain situations and others' reactions as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please don't forget to take the post test. The link is in your Tiger Day course. Thanks guys, have a good day.